field and scores a touchdown. Big win for Kirby Smart.
Mario Rogers gets the edge and explodes. Touchdown.
These seniors, amazing. We got a chance to go back to Charlotte, play for another ACC championship.
Well, hello and happy Monday. College Football Live coming your way. Rutledge, McElroy, Galloway, Greg, most impressive performance from the weekend.
It's got to be West Virginia. I mean, for them to beat a well-coached TCU team that was absolutely desperate the way they did. Guys, it wasn't even competitive. They didn't look like they belonged in the same division, let alone same level of football. I mean, that was a dominant performance from start to finish. West Virginia is playing their best football late.
Yeah, talking about not competitive. How about the Pitt Panthers? No one expected Pitt to be leading the Coastal right now. They ran for 492 yards against Virginia Tech. By far the best performance of the weekend.
How do we get through you guys both picking your top performances? And no one says Clemson. I mean, do we even have college football analysts on this show? Clemson, top performance over Boston College. Good defense. Plenty more coming your way on College Football Live right now.
Welcome to College Football Live, presented by ZipRecruiter.
As we begin College Football Live, the big news over the weekend, Coach Bobby Petrino out at Louisville after a 2-8 start this season, 0-7 in ACC play, and according to his contract obtained by Darren Rovell, Petrino owed a buyout of more than $14 million. As you hear this news, Greg, are you surprised that Louisville fell so far so fast?
I'm not. And part of it is just by looking at the tape the last few weeks and seeing the lack of effort on display by the Louisville players. It was a problem, and it really reflects, I think, the type of player they recruited over the last few years. For you to give up in the sign of adversity and to put forth such little effort when they find some adversity, it's really a problem. So I think the time has come to move forward. I know that Louisville is cash-strapped as a program, but they absolutely had to make this move if they want to salvage any support from their fan base in the years to come.
I will never agree with firing a coach mid-season. But this is about as close as I've ever come. In the past 2 weeks, when you look at them play football, I mean, they're second in college football in amount of penalties that they've committed. They had 19 penalties in this last game against Syracuse. You watch this team play, and it's not a lack of talent. I think, Greg, I think you're right. It's the effort level isn't there. There's dropped balls. There's penalties. They have the appearance of a team that just really isn't interested in playing football. So to see him move on isn't a surprise, even though I wouldn't say I agree with the midseason firing.
Yeah, it makes me think about Lamar Jackson being there and maybe us not giving him enough credit for what he might have done under that coaching staff. But, Greg, you mentioned it. They are cash-strapped as a program. Where do you think Louisville goes from here with this being maybe not a job that would be as desirable for some people?
Well, the search has to start with Jeff Brom at Purdue. He is a Louisville guy. He went to school there, and it would make complete sense that that's where the search would start. But if I'm Jeff Brom, I'm not taking that job. I know that home is where the heart is and mama calls, I got to go. But at the same time, give me a break, man. Purdue is in a more winnable division. They currently are better off financially. They're in the Big Ten, which is as lucrative a league as you can possibly find in college football. So if I'm Jeff Brom, I'm not touching that Louisville job. So I'd be real curious to see where the direction of the search might go if Jeff Brom turns them down.
Yeah, I think it starts with Jeff Brom, and I agree with you. I'm not sure I'm taking the job if I am Jeff Brom. And so when you talk about cash-strapped, you talk about $14 million for Petrino out the door. That limits your options of who you can go get as a coach. Greg might get a call. So, you know, as you're looking at Louisville, you're going to have to find a guy that is at a program. I wouldn't say a Big Ten program, because you mentioned it. There's a lot of money in the Big Ten right now. They may have to go a little bit lower to find a coach.
Lorenzo Ward will be the interim head coach there at Louisville, and Jeff Brom was asked about the opening earlier today, but he would not comment on it. All right, guys, let's move on to this week's All-State rankings, the college football playoff rankings, and these are by All-State. The teams in the AP Top 10 unleashed mayhem this week, going to perfect 10-0, and it is the first time that's happened in Week 11 or later since the 2009 season. So, time for winners and losers from the weekend as we see that there. Favorites were the big winner of the weekend, as I just mentioned, guys. And Joey, should we just shut things down and lock it up for what the top 4 is going to look like in the college football playoff?
No, I think we have a little bit of fun coming up. I mean, not necessarily this weekend, as Notre Dame is the only really marquee game against a Syracuse team that is pretty doggone good on the defensive side, and we know about Dino Babers and the offense of Syracuse. So when you talk Notre Dame, they got a tough game coming up this weekend. Not a whole lot left on the schedule, but if they get past this one, then we'll be talking about Notre Dame's in there.
What do you mean, Joey? Are you saying that there's a possibility that a team might lose a game in the next couple weeks? Because that doesn't sound like you. I'm not sure what happened when you went to Indianapolis. You went and got all crazy last week when you guys were having some fun between the basketball games. But I look at this, guys. Notre Dame needs to have their A game on Saturday. Now, Ian Book's going to return. Wimbush did a nice job filling in Ian Book's absence, but they're going to need to be good on both sides of the football because Syracuse is very, very confident. And this is a team that did lose to Pitt by 7. They lost to Clemson by 4. So, yeah, they have a couple losses, but both were really close and could have gone the other way. So expect Syracuse to put their best foot forward and give Notre Dame a challenge on Saturday.
As we continue with winners and losers, how about a loser? And this is defense in the Big 12, specifically Oklahoma and West Virginia. Greg and I actually ran into each other in the airport, and we're watching the end of that game with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. And we were both shaking our heads like this is unbelievable how poor the defense is. So, Greg, should these teams in West Virginia and Oklahoma specifically be concerned about the way the committee may look at them holistically because of poor defense?
Absolutely. And what we have learned so far in the first 4 years of the college football playoff is the committee does value balance, not run-pass balance, but offensive and defensive balance. If your offense lays an egg, can your defense pick it up enough to help you overcome what could be a significant challenge? And so far, we haven't seen a lot of teams that are really one-sided in one direction that have gotten the benefit of the doubt from the committee. So in a year when everyone is being measured against each other, the Big Ten champ against the SEC champ against the Big 12 champ, and it's going to be tough to kind of discern between the group, having a team that really struggles on defense could be a deciding factor for the College Football Playoff Committee.
Yeah, when you watch Oklahoma play, you were sort of waiting to see what Ruffin McNeill would mean to this defense, and that just hasn't happened. Offensively, they're as fun to watch as anybody out there. West Virginia also the same thing. Not as bad on the defensive side when you watch them play. I don't know where the numbers stack up. But when you watch Oklahoma, you don't see great effort. They're starting to look like when we just talked about Louisville, and the effort level just isn't there when you watch Oklahoma play defense. And then they're setting themselves up for, at the end of the season, we're going to see Oklahoma play West Virginia. And that game could be 75-74, which would be fun from an offensive standpoint. But you come out of that, and then who do you respect when we're talking about, especially the top 5 teams play pretty good defense?
Quick fun fact about the airport with Greg McElroy. He will take every free thing that may be offered up to him as you're going through the whole situation there. So I know that shocks everybody out there.
Yeah.
As we continue on with winners and losers, another loser, guys, marquee conference championship matchups. Northwestern clinching their spot in the Big Ten championship. And then, as we told you, Pitt in the driver's seat in the ACC. This is what it looks like right here as you see the Power 5 conference title games. Greg, is it time to overhaul this system?
Yes, it's been time. We have a system right now with divisions that don't make sense. Look at how lopsided some of the divisions are in college football. The Big Ten West versus the Big Ten East. The Pac-12 North versus the Pac-12 South. The only conference championship game that currently has it right is the Big 12 because it takes the 2 best teams in their conference and puts them together on Championship Saturday. So, yeah, there is an instance this year in the SEC where Alabama will play Georgia, and those are the 2 best teams from the SEC. But more often than not, in the last few years, we've seen really lopsided divisions, which leads to a less than dramatic Championship Saturday. So get rid of divisions. Find the 2 best teams, play them together on the first Saturday of December.
Laura, I don't know why you're shaking your head. Yes, like that makes sense. That's terrible. That is awful.
Why?
Look, I love the fact that Northwestern has earned their way to play into a championship game in their conference. I love the fact that Pitt comes out of the Coastal because they earned their way to do so. And so if you just can't start with, hey, let's take the 2 best teams, you have to then go back and say, if you're going to do that, just like the Big 12, everyone has to play everyone. So then when we get to the end and we're looking at who's the two best teams, that's a different conversation. But you just can't start with, hey, let's take the two best teams with the best records, because right now as it's set up, everyone is not playing everyone else. And so we got to go back and revamp the entire system, which, I mean, these guys have schedules set for years to come. And so Greg and Laura over there shaking her head, yes, agreeing with you, which is a shame. We got to go way back and fix a lot of things before we can get to a point where you can say we're taking the two best teams.
Well, I get what you're saying, but all you have to do is at most leagues right now play 9 conference games. You have 1 or 2 permanent crossover games amongst divisions or whatever. But at the end of the season, you reevaluate, okay, who are the best teams right now? So, for instance, it might be, say, Ohio State and Michigan that could play again. Who knows, depending on how it all sorts out. In the Pac-12, it might be Washington and Washington State that would play again if it all shakes out that way. But right now, to see Washington State potentially or Washington play against a 6-6 Arizona State team in the Pac-12 championship, that does nothing for me under any circumstance. So I'd like to see the season climax on Championship Saturday not kind of be a ho-hum type of matchup throughout the college football world.
Did you say we reevaluate? Who's the reevaluation team? Like, who's going to come in? Like, who are you saying is reevaluating?
Wins and losses.
So you're going to put me, you, and Laura together and say, hey, honestly, guys, regardless of what happened here, we think that Michigan should play Ohio State because we think those are the best teams. So now, all I'm saying to you is I can understand where you're coming from if, and only if, we get to a system like the Big 12 where everyone plays everyone, and then everyone has the same
in 14-team leagues.
So then neither is having the two best teams, because I don't know who you have reevaluating this thing, but we have a committee now that is reevaluating all of it, and we're still arguing about who the best teams are.
The reevaluation, the records, what your conference record is.
So in a season where I don't play Ohio State, or I don't play Michigan, or I get to skip Penn State in the Big Ten, I don't know how you can reevaluate my schedule at the end if a team has also had to play those 3 teams. Wisconsin in the past couple years got to skip Ohio State and Michigan as they won the Big Ten West. So my point is, we don't have apples to apples in your scenario to say, hey, let's reevaluate. Then we just got to guess. We got to take a stab at it. And I don't believe that's true. If we're just taking a stab, let's stay where we are.
We take a stab at the 4 best teams with the College Football Playoff Committee. Why can't we do it for conference champions?
Well, that's what I just said to you.
Playoff.
We need a committee. Who's this reevaluation team?
We're the committee.
On the committee. We're the committee.
We're the committee. The 3 of us, we are now the reevaluation committee.
In there.
We're good. We're the reevaluation committee. I'm dubbing us that right now. And one thing, guys, I don't want to open a huge can of worms, but you wonder if we did get to a point down the road where the college football playoff looks at expansion, if that could line up potentially with some of this that you guys are talking about. Joey's brain just went, and he thinks we're all totally crazy. But it's about to get crazier, because coming up, it's word association time. We've got mustaches. We've got all kinds of craziness. We've got bad words. Let's see what these guys come up with to associate with those.
College Football Live is presented by...
Hey, listen, get out your thesaurus here on Word Association College Football Live.
Ho-hum. All right, I don't know if that's 1 word or 2 words.
I'm going with bedraggled. And yes, I had to dig deep for that one.
I was gobsmacked by the win.
Say it in a British accent.
Good shit.
Give me a word to describe this segment that we just did.
I already used torture. I already used torture, but I can't.
You already used it. Re-rack it.
Yeah,
Re-rack it.
Yeah, I'll bring torture back.
Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. I try not to laugh at that every single time. Word association is coming our way right now, but let's take a look who was smart under pressure, brought to you by ZipRecruiter. Oklahoma held off a late surge by Oklahoma State, deflecting a 2-point conversion attempt to hold on for the 48-47 win. Mike Gundy was asked whether the players were on board with the decision to go for 2. Here he is after the game.
Well, I'm the only guy that matters on that. I don't give a shit what they think. They pay me to do that, and that way y'all can criticize me. But we had made the decision, gosh, probably 2 drives before. I'm not trying to belittle you. I'm just saying, if we let all them make decisions, hell, we'd be out there till the game was over.
Okay, the best part was Greg was writing furiously during that entire thing. So word association, you must have a really good one for this one, Greg. We'll let you go first. What are your thoughts?
Dictatorship, all right? That's what college football is. It's not about the players. The players, like he talked about, they're going to want to go for it every single time. This is a one-stop shop, and he is the guy that gets to make the call on Coach Gundy. The problem is, it was a great play call. And honestly, the receiver was wide open, but it was an awful throw, Joey. You can't miss it 4 yards inside on a quick out.
Yeah, Greg, I think we're on the same page with this one. Yeah, I think he's very clear that this was not a democracy. And it's funny when people ask that question anyhow, like the coach's going to turn to the players and say, hey, what do you guys think? Now, what players going to be like, Coach, I don't think that's the way we should go, Coach. I think we should kick this extra point. Most players want to go for 2 anyhow.
I wish they would ask me on the sideline when I'm doing games. I'm always like, go for 2, go for it on 4th down. I love that stuff. It's my favorite thing in the world. Okay, next up we have Mike Leach wearing the mustache, and you just have to hear what he had to say about it.
If it's important, which I've never believed it is, we did control the ball.
That's a little mustache.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Coach, Minshew Mania, the mustache sensation has taken over Pullman and much of the country. How can you describe what he has meant to this team?
Well, I don't know. I don't even think he had a mustache when I recruited him. I don't recall. And then he's got more than a mustache, too, and I don't know why everybody only notices his. A lot of these kids have mustaches. Anyway.
Okay, so, I mean, Minshew Mania, it's a big deal. Joey, what do you got on this? Putting the stash on, and obviously it needs to be sideways. Heart, that's beautiful. That's not a word, but I'll let you get away with it because it's good.
Yeah, it took me a long time to draw that heart with the arrow through it. He's just showing love for his quarterback. He's enjoying coaching the kid that is leading the country in passing per game. And I really believe that if he continues this whole mustache thing and the whole talk and the love, he'll be making a trip to New York for the Heisman Trophy presentation. And I think that's what this is all about.
I like it. I'm going Vogue, all right, because I was out there a couple weeks ago, and in Pullman, Washington, everyone has Minshew Mania. I mean, mustaches. You got little kids. You have geriatrics. You have pediatrics. Like, you have people of all ages that are rocking that fake mustache, and it's definitely something that you get into. Like, I kind of wanted to grow it out. Problem is, I tried all week, and it didn't really come through the way I wanted it to. But long story short, Minshew Mania is sweeping the nation. Everyone needs to hop on board.
Greg's just so mad. All he has is peach fuzz, but I'm sorry, Greg. It's never going to change for you. Okay, how about Brian Kelly stirring up a little controversy at the quarterback spot? Ian Book out, and he felt like Brandon Wimbush played pretty well. Let's hear what he had to say.
Well, who says Ian's the starter? I thought Wimbush was great today. Didn't you guys think he was great? I think we start a controversy right now and get this thing rolling so you guys got plenty of stuff to write about for the week, because you guys will be bored just talking about one guy. Yeah, I don't know about that. So we'll see. I mean, I like Wimbush right now. We'll see.
All right, look, Greg, so here's the one good thing. Notre Dame has 2 seemingly decent options at quarterback.
All right, this is what I say to Brian Kelly. Shush, all right? Do not talk about a quarterback controversy, because us in the national media will absolutely lock onto it, because there's not a lot of drama right now in college football. About the most dramatic thing we have going for us is who might knock off Notre Dame. So if you let us talk about it, we will. Ian Book's your guy. Stick with him, ride him all the way, and you might find yourself in the college football playoff.
I'm going with the word sassy. Yeah, and this is a shout out to my man Adnan Virk on College Football Finals Saturday night. This is what he had to say.
Brian Kelly, though, a little sassy on whether Ian Book will be available against Syracuse at Yankee Stadium.
Sassy, huh?
What? Nothing's better than Adnan and his words.
Yeah, he went sassy. You don't hear that word in football ever. But since Adnan went sassy, I'm just going to stick with the theme, and Brian Kelly's been a little sassy when he came to his press conference.
Real quick, Joey, did anyone ever call you sassy when you played? Because I could see that making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
No, Saturday night was the first time I've heard sassy associated with football ever in my entire life. and Adnan
You
did.
get sassy when discussing divisions.
We'll see who's getting sassy Tuesday night, probably Joey. This is the exclusive reveal of the next college football playoff top 25 rankings at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on ESPN. Oh.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know if y'all had a chance to see this on Saturday. This was a little reenactment. They were talking about like passing off line stunts. But what we missed is the greatest hits of Laura Rutledge so far on SEC Nation. Dropping a snap and riding a horse and allowing the horse to go
the
crazy.
Snap didn't even hit her hands. I mean,
no.
At least put your hands out for the snap and hit you right in the stomach.
It actually hit me somewhere that I won't say on TV, and then all I could do was fall to the ground, okay? There was no other choice. You guys, I'm never letting you guys take
your
control.
Way to go get the ball.
Way to be an athlete. Crawling on all fours. Good job.
Done with you guys.